My name's Chris Goodall. I was the IT strategy advisor for Surrey County Council. One of the main things that I was brought on to do was to create a bespoke IT solution that could cater for the education needs of all the students within the alternative provision environment, transferring from our traditional face-to-face methods of delivery to more of an online method of delivery so that we could produce a toolbox of solutions that could cater for those students' needs. The main challenge we faced was we had quite a disparate group of students, so they were all over the place. Some would be taught in their own home, some would be taught in education establishments, and others would be brought off-site, in some cases into coffee shops, into libraries. The number of students that we had went up and down on a regular basis, so you never could be quite sure how many students that you would get in each area. And it was very hard to match our needs in terms of hours with the amount of staff that we've got. The staff then had to travel to the student's home generally, or arrange a separate place where they could meet. One, logistically that was quite hard to organise, but secondly it's a high cost way of providing for the students. Some of these students, just by nature, are probably the most challenging, vulnerable students that we've got within the local authority. And so it meant at times that the teacher would turn up to the student's house or wherever it was, and the students weren't there, or the students would not want to engage with the provision. So it meant that the teaching staff had to come away. So huge waste of time and huge waste of resource, and obviously that costs money. Part of my role was researching various forms of education provider, and I happened to be reading the BBC News one day and saw an article about a school in Birmingham that had a number of difficulties where they had asbestos within the school and had to close for a period of 6 weeks. I was quite interested in the article as one of the solutions that was implemented was Tute came in to support that school and provide education during that 6-week environment. And that's how I met Sean, who's the CEO of Tute, and we got talking and we were looking at various solutions that could support Surrey County Council. Tute, in terms of its essence, is an online teaching platform. You have a student who's sat either at home or in another environment on their laptop, and then you have one of the Tute members of staff who are also sat with their own equipment. The students can see the teachers. There's also a chat room where the students can interact with those members of staff via typing text, which work particularly well for some of our more challenging students. One of the main things that we learnt from implementing the Surrey Online School was the benefits that technology can bring to students to supplement some of the face-to-face and existing provisions that we had within the local authority. Many people are afraid that technology can isolate students, but actually we found the exact opposite, that students actually could thrive by using the online technology in a very non-threatening way, and that enabled them to then go on to access some of those other forms of provision that we also found effective. So it helped balance out all the various forms of provision that we did. One of the major benefits that we saw over the 2-year period that we've been working for Tute is a massive increase in attendance for the students who are attending the online lessons as opposed to when they were at school. We measured the attendance of the students once they were in school, before they came to us, and then afterwards once they'd experienced the online lessons. And in the first year they went from 17% attendance up to 50% attendance, and in the second year from 31% attendance to 62% attendance. So we were able to demonstrate very clearly that the online lessons were increasing student attendance. Another benefit that we saw was engagement. We saw a number of students who we didn't feel initially would be suitable, but we were trying the online lessons out with the students. And amazingly, we found that these students, because of the decreased barrier of online learning, we found that students that we initially thought were going to be very difficult to engage in any form of provision were able to engage with the online provision. We also saw a benefit with students with anxiety, and it was probably the most stark area of success that we had with Surrey Online School, is the ability to access some of those students who are too anxious to access any form of education. The online school had significant benefits with this group of students, not only in attendance, but in terms of attainment and progress. We saw a number of students who, because of anxiety, they were missing huge amounts of education, but their ability was actually very good. But they weren't accessing that education, and that was difficult for them. Because they were able to access the online platform without any form of anxiety, because it's a very low threatening environment, they were able to engage, not only engage with those lessons, but thrive in those lessons as well. We had one student that was struggling with anxiety. Like, they were refusing to go to school and had done for a long period of time. This girl had only ever attended 3 days of actual school since year 7, and she came to us in year 10 having had no schooling. When she started on the Tute platform, that's where we really saw her engagement increase. That ability to interact with a live teacher. She formed a very close relationship with all the teachers at Tute and managed to come out with 3 GCSEs at C grade, which, considering she has not stepped foot in a school for 3 or 4 years, was a huge achievement for her. She ended up going to college to study BTEC Health with one of the other students on the platform, and they formed a very healthy relationship with each other, which enabled them both to be successful. One particular quote that we had from a student was that they felt let down by the system in general, and it wasn't until Tute became involved through Surrey Online School that actually they finally felt that someone actually cared about them. One piece of key evidence we collected was in tracking the exit pathways of students once they left the online teaching. In year 1, they moved from 76% of our students who went on to some form of further education in college to 86% in year 2. So there was clear progression that what we were providing led to students being more successful once they'd finished their GCSE courses and left alternative provision. Schools became familiar with what we offered as Surrey Online School via Tute. And once they became familiar with that, they saw the benefits that it could reap for them. We had quite a dramatic and surprising increase, one in our first year, but also that continued into the second year, to the point where approximately 87% of our Surrey schools have bought in at some point to the Surrey Online School. I'd really recommend working with Tute in the way that we have as Surrey Online School. One of the key benefits is the cost savings that can be realised. Not only is there cost savings in terms of staffing, recruitment and retention, but there's also savings in terms of provision for students. With one particular need, we would have to pay £17,500 per student to provide for a student. The savings that gave us by implementing an online solution were hugely significant and reduced those costs. I'd recommend Tute to other local authorities, mainly for the benefit of the flexibility it gives you, their ability to effectively be a flexible form of provision to supplement all the other forms of provision that you would offer as a local authority. It has given us a hugely wide-ranging toolbox to be able to offer students, which means that we can tailor all of our provision to the wide range of needs that our students have, but also do it at such a low cost.